So, what the next question that came to us is, what was the most offbeat advice I've ever received, and what is the most important personality trait I feel an entrepreneur must have to succeed? And I think, for me personally, my most successful trait is my perseverance. Like, I have no idea how to give up on something. If I commit to something, if I tell you I'm gonna do something for you, like, you bet your ass that's gonna be done by the time I said it's gonna be done, or I'm gonna email you by the time, or I'm gonna call you by the time, letting you know why it's not done. It's never gonna be random, where you're like, I don't know what happened to him, like, it just disappeared on me. So, perseverance and following up with what you said you're gonna do. Like, if you say you're gonna do something, then fucking do it. That's, I think, the most important personality trait you can have in business, is just knowing yourself enough to tell yourself what you're gonna do and just fucking do it. As far as, you know, like, never giving up and everything, that's very cliche, but it's very true. Like, you just persevere until you get it, even if it means you tweak something 15, 20, 30 times, it's irrelevant, as long as you eventually get it. I think that the craziest offbeat advice I've ever received was, there was a time in my life where I was obviously not that well off, and I was working, and I was kind of making it, and I had taken a lot of risks in the market. I was down to my last $5,000 of actual cash left, and I had all this money tied into investment properties, investments, and so on and so forth, but I had no way to recoup it. So if I ultimately took it out, then I would have been on a huge loss, and I didn't have that kind of opportunity. I didn't want to lose it, right? Like, who wants to lose a lot of money? So at that time, I was still building kind of wealth. I was building business. I was, you know, trying to make new things happen. And so my circumstance was very different than now. But what happened then, the advice I got from someone, and it's kind of spiritual in a sense, but it's not really religious, is he said, you know, he said to me, he said, look, take whatever you have, it doesn't matter. And you have to be all in life. Doesn't matter what it's for. You have to be all in for something to work. You can never make something work when you're not all in. And I think this applies to a lot of people, like, in terms of having a side job or having a job while you're trying this business you really believe in. If you really believe in it, then why are you having a side job for it, right? Like, focus on it full time. I mean, it just makes sense, I think. So you really have to think about it that way. Like, for me, that advice was just like, you're either all in or you're out. There's no way in between. There's no, you know, you're all in maybe, and you're in with like 50%, and you'll do this and you'll scale up. No. You're either all in or you're out. If you're serious and if you believe in yourself, then you're all in, and there's no other way about it. And I think that's that belief that we always talk about, that I've always brought up in almost every video, is the key here. And in my own experience, and for myself, when it came down to my last 5,000, while fear was obviously part of, you know, like, you're running out of cash, like, what are you gonna do to sustain your lifestyle, right? It was also the idea that you have to believe enough that you have to do what you control, and that spiritually, that energy you put out there will be reciprocated with further energy of some kind. This is what Bob Burg in The Go-Giver talks about, you know, the law of left field, which is, out of nowhere, you suddenly have this opportunity, which you think is like luck. You're like, oh my God, I scored this thing, and now randomly this guy emailed me and said he wanted to do something, and, you know, I'm gonna get this huge sale or whatever it is. But that's not luck, right? That's you putting out energy, and you putting out a message, and it's someone reciprocating that back, even though you're not aware that that's happening. So a lot of times, I wrote about this, called the ripple effects of entrepreneurship, is a lot of times, as long as you're doing your part and not worry so much about everyone else's part, then you can really find yourself in a position where a lot of that left field stuff is happening, and you're receiving a lot more that you weren't accounting for because you couldn't see it happening, right? So I think in entrepreneurship, it's important to understand that we can't always control the outcome of everything we work on. We try a new marketing strategy, it fails. We try to get our message across a certain way, it fails, and so on and so forth. But at least we know what we can do is continuously tweak that message, continuously tweak that campaign until we get what we want to get out of it. During that meantime, though, we can only control and worry about what we worry about. So we have to be all in enough to not care about these distractions, you know, that occur that prevent us from being all in. So I think that would be the best advice that I've ever gotten, and the best advice I can give you. Trust. So the next question I got is kind of a personal one, is what do I look forward to? I don't really know what the fuck that means though. So whoever asked that shit, don't ask stupid shit like that again. No, I'm just joking.